Hey everybody, welcome back to Conversations Worth Having with Kai and Tara. Tara is actually here with us today, and we are going to dive in into therapy, basically. And I want to learn more from Tara about cognitive therapy and what exactly that is, and what is it? What is cognitive therapy?
So it's actually called cognitive behavioral therapy, so CBT.
Ooh. Okay.
There's also TFCBT, which is trauma focused cognitive behavioral therapy. I'm actually certified in that one. Um,
Oh,
Cognitive behavioral therapy is essentially the idea that by either changing your thoughts or your actions, you can impact feelings and general well being, and you can improve things. Insurance companies love for people to use it because it has a lot of research behind it, so we know it's effective. And generally speaking, I mean, people can respond pretty well to it if they're open to actually doing the pieces. But there's a lot of moving parts to it. And I am by no means an expert in it, but it is a very common form of therapy. And it is one that a lot of people will use if you're seeking a therapist.
can you give us some everyday examples of how a thought can affect how we feel and what we do, like physically and mentally, where you get it, stuck in some kind of rut, and how that can actually, you know, affect us?
Sure. But I'm going to use an example that, I mean, resonates well here in California. I don't know how well it resonates absolutely everywhere, but I'm still going to use
Mhm.
it because that's the world I work in and it's the world I use with folks. But we have really terrible freeway traffic around here, especially if you're in the LA area. Wonderful. So the example we give people, or I give people, I should say, is let's say you're stuck in traffic. That's an environment I cannot change. I do not control these thousands of cars on this road. The only things I can control are how I'm thinking and what I'm choosing to do while I'm stuck in this car. I can choose to think about how terrible this is, how I hate living here, how I hate all this traffic. This is terrible. How do you think I'm going to feel once I finally get to my destination? So I'd like you to guess, Kai. How would you be feeling if that's what you've been telling yourself for the full hour that you're stuck on the freeway? Is how terrible this is, and I hate everything about this.
Well, I can tell you by example, I used to be stuck on the freeway and I chose to dance. And I
Wait,
chose
wait,
to
wait, wait. No, I'm
see,
asking how. But you see, you're going down a different path there. We're making
ah,
a point here, real quick. Sorry.
that's true.
How would you feel if you stayed in that thought process, though, of this is terrible? I'm stuck here. I can't, this is terrible. I hate everything about this. How would you feel when you arrived at your destination?
Like poo poo. I would feel
Right.
worse.
Right. So if instead we choose to shift our thoughts, we feel ourselves going down that path and we go, "Ooh, no, I don't want to feel like poo poo when I get to my destination. I want to feel good." So I can tell myself this is an opportunity. I'm going to get a chance to dance. I'm going to call a friend and chat with them, hands free, of course, and have an opportunity to connect. Or this is giving me a chance to deep breathe and practice my presentation before I get there. How are you going to feel when you arrive if those are the thoughts you're having?
Amazing.
You're going to feel better. It's still, and nothing changed in the action, like in the environment you were stuck in. You're still stuck in the freeway, but I shifted my thoughts. So I'm going to feel and be in a different place when we arrive. The other
Mhm.
one is where you jump down, and that's the behavior. I can hit my steering wheel, scream at the other drivers, be all upset, and my body is going to be feeling like poo poo because everything was activated. Heart rate was racing, muscle tension is high, I'm angry. By the time I get where I'm going to be in a rough place. If instead I choose to change my behavior, so these aren't my thoughts, these are just my behaviors, I can still think, oh, this is terrible. Take some deep breaths. I'm going to dance, listen to some music instead. I'm going to change those parts of my environment. I'm going to be feeling better than if I was sitting in silence and screaming at the other drivers. So that's cognitive and behavioral. So by changing one of those two pieces, you can usually change your outcome. So that's the general example I give folks. In our relationships or other things, it's we can reframe our negative thoughts that this person is doing this on purpose. This person doesn't like me, which puts us in a negative place. Or we can remember this is someone I care about. This is someone I want to have a relationship with. I'm going to focus on what we want this outcome to be. And we're shifting our thoughts to a better place. Or I'm going to say, our interaction is not going well. I'm going to walk away rather than sit here and let it be terrible. So again, either I change my thoughts or I change my actions to have a different result with the environment that I am in.
I think it's incredible, and it worked for me. Like I'm still struggling with negative loopholes,
Yeah.
but it takes work to be a human. So if you put in the work, I think it's very good therapy. But I want to ask, how does someone know? Let's say somebody has never went to therapy. How does someone know when it's actually time to seek therapy?
That's a tougher one because therapy is not the be all end all. It's a great tool. I think people should try it. I think if you haven't ever tried it before, you should try it. But it's not the only thing. You can read books and do what's in the book and make a change. You can exercise, you can move and change your environment that way and get a lot of results. Knowing it's time for therapy, basically, in my mind, is I don't know where to go. I don't know how to move. I want a change and I'm unsure how to get that change. And so I'm going to hire a trainer. If I go to the gym and I'm not sure how to get the body I want, you hire a trainer who goes, this is how you target your hips. This is how you improve your back strength. And they know how to do that. So, of course, I hire them. I could just go to the gym and hope for the best. You can just pick up the books and read them and hope for the best. Hiring a therapist is just getting a trainer in there. So they're guiding you through. You have that expert spotting and that expert kind of eyes on it, is the hope.
What would you say to someone who is thinking that my problems aren't bad enough to deserve therapy? The keyword being deserve therapy.
Well, I mean, therapy, at least here in the United States, a lot of our insurance companies are not paying therapists very well. And therefore, a lot of therapists don't accept insurance. So it is going to be an out of pocket expense. And that's not
Mhm.
because we're greedy as therapists, it's because literally insurance companies will try to screw us out of the money we've earned through our
Mhm.
contracts with them. They also do this thing called, we call them clawbacks. They'll give you the money. They'll say, sure, you did the service. Thanks for the note. Here's the money. And then months later, they'll go, you know what? We don't think we should have given you that money. Give it back to us. And we're talking, I've had colleagues lose thousands of dollars this way, have to give back thousands of dollars. And we can't afford to do that. I mean, we're independent. We're not working with anybody. We're on our own. We can't afford to do that. So a lot of people won't get on insurance panels. And then you get people who are kind of like, well, we can't really afford therapy. That's kind of a lose situation all around there. So we do need to get some type of reform in there. Good luck. I don't know how to exact change at the insurance level, but it's pretty screwed up what we're looking at. So as far as deserve, usually I hear I can't afford therapy. Not necessarily that I don't deserve therapy. I hear I can't afford therapy, which is it's hard to
That's
hear as a therapist, but it's also like I can't afford to just take all the insurances and fight the insurance companies for the money I earned.
Yeah, I think
And they
that's
haven't given
absolutely
raises anyway.
terrible. I'm
Yeah.
hoping so much that we can maybe do a continuation of some podcasts about specifically therapy on some of the questions that people may be having so that they can hire you as either a life coach or if they can get the money together, go to San Diego and actually sit down with Tara. But if they can't, then Tara is a life coach all of the United States. So it would be nice for people to not feel so alone because first of all, having any kind of like anxiety or depression or mental health issues is already scary on its own. And now when if you have to worry about not being able to get help, I think that's when things can get very dark and tricky. And
Yeah.
um uh I don't know. I feel like the system is not always the greatest because it's
Correct. I would
limiting a lot of
agree.
people.
I would
But
agree. But back to like how like if people don't think their problems are big enough, that
yes.
becomes one of those things where the ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure kind of idea. Better to
Mhm.
deal with something when your problems are small. You won't be in therapy very long. You'll get some good tools, and maybe you can avoid being in therapy in the future if you want to, because I got the tools and I know how to deal with this situation. If I never get the tools and I start creeping up in the problems and I don't have the tools to dig myself out, it just keeps piling up. And then all of those small things add up to this heavy burden. And it's way harder to work through, even though they're all still the small things. But you're weighed down by them now.
Oh
And it's
yeah.
much harder. Like, why don't go to the gym wearing cement shoes? Why would we do
Yeah.
this?
What
But
usually happens in the first therapy session when somebody comes to see you? Like, what can people expect if they come to if they get a nice job in San Diego, they need to see somebody, and they're coming to Tara. Like, how does the first therapy session kind of, work? What's there to expect, or how
so
can people?
every therapist is going to have their own approach. When I work with individuals, the first session we have to do like an intake assessment, which means I'm going to ask for your history, the history of why you're seeking therapy, what have you tried so far, those kinds of things. I also have to go through all of like the legal disclosures that this is confidential, the reasons we have to break confidentiality, which are usually safety reasons, danger to self or others, or kids or elderly people are being hurt. We're going to have to break confidentiality, but otherwise you get to leave it all here. No one will ever know. We go over all those rules. Any office policies that people have for cancellations and those kind of things should be covered in your first session so that you're aware. Some people will do that as just paperwork. Other people will go over it verbally. Different therapists are going to take different approaches.
Mhm.
Usually, that first session is establishing what they're there for, what the goals are, and how we're going to move forward, and what rules have to be respected in order to do that. When I work with couples, it's a little bit different. I still have to go over the rules. I walk them through that first session, a timeline of their relationship. How did y'all meet? What were the milestones? What was meaningful? Why did you choose each other? That kind of stuff. And we do all that in the first session. But so that's a little different than individuals, obviously,
And
because we're
just to
doing
let the
different kind of
listener
work.
know, I've done both. I've done therapy with my incredible husband, where stuff was a little bit rocky and difficult because we were a military family, and I've done individual therapy with Tara, and both of them work absolutely incredible. Just making sure to leave that out there. But
Yeah.
what happens usually after the first sessions? Does cognitive therapy usually involve homework or exercises between sessions, or how does that all work?
Sometimes the cognitive, again, it depends on the therapist style. Some therapists love giving you homework to do, and other therapists shy away from giving work to do. I'm kind of a mix. I usually give people like a little 3x5 card with things to try to remember to do. But I also don't expect that people necessarily always do these things in between session because a lot of times people just aren't in the habit. Okay. Um, with cognitive behavioral, usually you're kind of like, you're working on, I'm going to try to reframe these negative thoughts, but you only get certain negative thoughts to try to work on for a bit because we can't change everything all at once. That's not a thing. We have to kind of narrow it down and do one thing at a time.
Hmm.
It tends to have a domino effect across the board, which is helpful. But to start with, you just kind of got to work on one or two things. And then once those things start to improve, you can move to the next things and the next things. Cognitive behavioral is really popular. I also do solution focused therapy. Those are the two I usually do when I'm working with individuals, are either cognitive behavioral or solution focused. Solution focused, it's a matter of helping them retrain their brain to look for the positives in their world, look for what is working, how to build on that. What do you imagine what you want the situation to look like in this right now?
I'm only
And it
smiling because you've done all of them on me.
I know with varying levels of success. So sometimes we have to change it up. And again, and seeing different, like there are therapists who do DBT therapy, there's therapists who do EMDR, there's lots of therapy styles out there. You do want to make sure they have been properly trained, that they didn't just take one class and they're saying they're all good. And there's a lot of things in the media right now that are
Mhm.
highlighting mental health treatment here in the United States. No one's perfect. And it is hard to find a good fit. So sometimes after that first session, it's just the individual deciding whether or not that session seems like they'll work well with that therapist. If you hate the therapist's way of being or the way they sound,
Right.
you might not be able to do that. If you don't feel like they were actually understanding you, maybe you don't do that one. You don't work with that therapist. You have to get a new one.
What usually happens after the first session? Like after you're done with the first session, you're thinking of scheduling your second one. What happens on the second one?
I usually schedule people for their next one while they're still with me.
Hmm.
So I'll be like, all right, let's schedule your next session. If they want to cancel it, they can always reach out and cancel it, but I tend to schedule it so they don't have to worry about that. Um, as far as next sessions, it depends on what they shared. It depends on what
Right.
topics they want to dive into. A lot of times I start my sessions moving forward with how has the week been? How have the last couple of weeks been? Anything in particular you want to talk about? Or do you want me to pick? And I let people kind of decide and we go from there. Every once in a while I get people who are like, why would I pick? And I'm like, well, because it's your life. And me picking may not be real effective for you. I may want to talk about that thing that happened at work last week, and you want to talk about something that is happening with your kids. How would I know that? So it's a matter of kind of finding that between the two of us, what would work. But everybody's different. Everybody's different. There's no cookie cutter way to just kind of, at least from my point of view, to just approach the next thing.
And if someone is listening today and they're super nervous about making their first therapy appointment, what would be the one thing that you would want them to know about making that first appointment to see a therapist?
The nerves will fall away, and hopefully, if it's a good match therapeutically, if you're the right kind of therapist for you to be working with, those nerves are going to disappear in the first few minutes, and you're just going to be able to go through your session. And that would be a good sign then that you found a good therapist, one that'll work for you. But other than that, keep in mind, I always get a little nervous when I'm about to meet a new client, but also I do it a lot, and I enjoy meeting new people, and I enjoy hearing their stories. So just they want to do this. They're here to help you. This is a beneficial thing for everybody. So try to lean in on that part and understand that anytime we do anything new, it's normal to be a little nervy, be unsure. Sometimes you just got to jump in, see how it feels. And if it doesn't work for you, you move on to something else.
That's incredible. I think I didn't take the time
Oh,
on
yeah, I
where
forgot
we
to.
are. I'm pretty sure we're at almost 20 minutes, but I wanna leave the listener with something that they could do and apply right now. Let's say the listener is struggling with daily anxiety, and it fluctuates. It can be worse some days, and some days it's better. What can they do right now to just kind of self-soothe themselves so that they can sleep well tonight and realize that the sky is not always falling?
This first thing I would say is deep breathing is always going to help. And I know that that sounds too easy, too good to be true, blah, 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 too simple. It is very simple. It's the only automatic system of our body that we can just take over and do because we want to. Maybe blinking, but blinking doesn't help us so far. But just breathing. So, in order to soothe anxiety, if you slow your breathing down, your body cannot have physical anxiety symptoms. Problem is, we can't just deep breathe all day long. That doesn't work. As far as what can I do mentally, I would say, like you just said, it fluctuates. Some days they're having good days, some days they're not having good days. Look at what's going on the good days. What might have contributed to that good day? What might have made that a good day for me? Was it that I got good sleep the night before? Was it that I was able to get my work done and that made me feel accomplished? And then I felt calmer as I headed home for the day. What allowed me to feel it? Because you can build on what works on day one to help me on day five. Is it going to be perfect? No, it's not going to be perfect, but the hope is it helps enough so you can just kind of crack through that anxiety and build a day-to-day habit and life that works for you.
I love that. And the last question, did you paint all those incredible paintings behind you?
That was my COVID project. I used to
Awesome.
they did paint night, and but they did it obviously on video, and they'd guide you through step by step, but I would make a big one and a little one, and I have a ring of little ones in my office, and then I have these bigger ones here.
I think they're incredible. It reflects really how Tara is as a human being. So anybody in San Diego area, get in touch with Tara. And we're so grateful that you're here today. As somebody with daily anxiety, I'm here for you, listeners. I understand you, and we got this together. So please reach out to Tara. And we're so glad you're here. It's this conversations worth having with Kai and Tara. And Here we are. We'll see you next time. Bye bye.